Hey everybody, it's Paul from Alexander Knife Sharpening and Laser Engraving. Wanted to show you one of the new angles that we will be coming out with, which is 30, and I'm probably going to have Thor make a 35. Lawnmower blades are typically around a 30 to 35 degree angle, and I wanted to show you that yes, you can do a lawnmower blade on one of your Vivor or Tulker style machines. It helps to have a very aggressive belt, so you can get even like a 36 or a 60 grit Bora 7 or a Cubitron belt, and they work great. And you can see I'm just grinding that edge on here. Now, the most important part of a lawnmower blade is the very end. About 1 inch from the very end does the majority of your cutting. And as that blade wears, that very end, that tip, will start to round off. And that's when people really need to get their blade sharpened. When you start to see that very end of the tip there rounded, and I mean, sometimes you'll see them and they're completely destroyed and there's no tip whatsoever. This blade's in pretty good shape. There was a few minor chips in it, but nothing really bad. And I'm, flipping around doing the opposite direction. And I just work on the side of the machine when I do these, and I line it up and just make sure that it's removing and hitting that angle properly. And this 30-degree angle guide was working perfect for it. Look at the very tip here. You'll see it's nice and square now again, so that's a good sign. And we got all the big chips out. So now I am going to do maybe one more pass here, and then I am going to go to a higher grit belt. I'll probably go to a 120 Cubitron or Bora 7, whichever I got hanging below the machine here. So you can see how aggressive that belt is. It's pretty big grit on there, and that's one that's great for lawnmower blades, especially if you have a lot of chips to get out of them. So here's a 120 grit Cubitron belt, and I'll be just doing the same thing here, just a few passes on here to refine that a little bit more, and then I will deburr it, and I'm going to show you what I do to deburr these. Now, some people say you don't have to deburr a lawnmower blade. I tend to do it just so it feels good and sharp, but I've been told before that just from spinning and hitting the grass, it's going to kind of self-deburr. But if you don't deburr it, then sometimes it doesn't feel sharp, and a lot of customers, they just want to kind of feel that it's sharp. And the most important thing is the angle. Lawnmower blades are the fastest cutting thing there is. They spin incredibly fast, and it's that incredible speed and momentum that is doing the cutting. So the angle on these isn't super crucial. It's important, but that's why, it's a 35 degree angle, because it's speed that's doing most of the cutting, and the majority of the blade doesn't cut. Like I said, it's that last inch that's super important. The rest of the blade is actually cutting on the backstroke, and it's doing more mulching and cutting the grass into smaller pieces. But what's actually making first contact with your lawn and your grass is that very end of the blade. And that's why that's so important, because if that's rounded, you're actually weed whacking your lawn. You're not cutting it, and you can tell because you start getting those burnt and brown tips that you see in the grass. So now I grabbed a really old, I believe it's 600 grit diamond plate that I had from a real cheapo set of sharpeners from China. And I use them now just to deburr lawnmower blades. So I'm just running that across the backside of the blade where there's a little bit of a burr. And that's how I deburr my lawnmower blades. I don't get crazy about it. I just give it a couple swipes with that diamond plate there, and then they're done. And then I wrap them up and they're good to go. And you can see, there we go. I'm just kind of run that down there across any burr. Check it, feels good and sharp, and then take a good look at it, and that's good to go. This blade is ready to go. Now, I will tell you, it's generally not a good idea to take these to your leather, especially if you're doing them on a low grit, because it will tear your leather up. Those burrs can be pretty significant, so I try not to do that. So a very nice young lady drove all the way down from Ashburn with this Nakiri that was her boyfriend's, and she really mangled it. You can see there she did a lot of damage to it. She didn't realize how Japanese knives can chip pretty easily, so she wanted to get it fixed. typically most of my customers drop off, but that was the only knife she brought in. She needed it repaired, and I didn't feel like making her have to make the trip all the way back from Ashburn. So I told her if she had like 20 minutes, she could run up to the local coffee shop and then come back in a little bit, and I'll have it all finished for her. I didn't want her to have to drive. It's not that far, but it's one of those drives around here. Traffic can just be terrible, and it could take you an hour when it should be like a 10 or 15-minute drive. So we will get this going for here. So I grabbed a 17-degree angle guide on this. I'm going to sharpen it at 15, but because of all those chips in there, I'm just going to use this to help me get all those chips out at first. And you'll notice here, I'm not even concerned at this point about apexing it. So I'm not going to be checking it for a burr. I'm just going to be going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until I remove all those chips. Then I will change the angle and make sure I apex it. But I'm using a 120 grit Cubitron belt here, and it's basically, my goal here is right now, let's just get the chips out. I could have even gone to a higher angle. It would have been fine. I could have went all the way up to 20, but 17's fine. I noticed right away that even though this was a Japanese knife, it still seemed to be fairly soft metal. So I wasn't having a hard time getting the chips to start to come out. And so that's basically what I'm doing here, is just working on removing those chips and seeing how much work it was going to take. And if it had been really hard, I might have even made a different choice. I might have done it on the THOR machine, but they were coming out just fine. And so I just decided, we'll do it right here. I only got like 20 minutes before she comes back, and it needs a good bit of work. It was also bent. I wasn't going to try and correct the bend in this particular knife because I didn't want to risk the whole knife snapping. It had a pretty good bend. Someone put a lot of force on this Nakiri doing something. But right now, my only concern was, hey, let's get it resharpened. I'm not going to worry about the big bend that's in there. And you can see here, we're getting real close to almost no chips in there. And then I can start worrying about putting the proper angle back on it. And we're going to do, even though, it's for just a quick kind of repair and sharpening, but we're going to do a little cleanup on this knife too. And I will probably treat the handle. It's an untreated handle, and that's just something I typically do. These light colored Japanese handles always kind of bug me when they get dirty and get the hand oils and stuff in there. So a lot of times I'll give them a real light sanding, get that old stuff off, and then retreat it with some linseed oil or Danish oil or some type of hardening oil. So we're good. I got everything out there, and now I'm going to grab my 15-degree angle, which is the angle that I want to do this Nakiri at. And you can tell they're pretty rough on it. I mean, potentially you could even go lower, but I think 15 is going to be just fine for this one. So I am grabbing a 200 Trizac, which I like sometimes when I've done a lot of grinding on something, and that's what we're going to do here. It's not a part of my normal process, but when I've done a lot of like profile work, sometimes I like to take a 200 because it just gives everything a nice, it starts a like nice machine finish look on it again, as opposed to that really rough edge that we get off of a Bora 7 or a Cubitron belt. And you'll see here, now I am starting to check for that burr. And I'm feeling to see if it's got a good bite to it. And it did. It had a burr and everything was good there. So now I'm going to go my normal process. Now I'm going to grab an A30 belt and continue on sharpening of this Nakiri. the A16 Trizec belt or 1200 grit. And this is my final step in my process usually, especially for Japanese knives. Sometimes I'll stop at 600, depends on the knife, but on Japanese knives, I almost always go to at least 1200 when I'm belt sharpening. So this little 1x30 down here on the end is one of the very first ones that I ever built. This is a Harbor Freight that I converted to variable speed with the Kansu sewing machine motors. And this is pretty much a permanent strop for me now. I could sharpen with it if I needed to, but I do two things on this machine. I strop on it with leather, and I also use split belts with my serrated knife sharpening method. So this one's pretty much, even though it goes both directions, almost always now running edge trailing because I've kind of dedicated it to stropping or sharpening serrated knives, which I do all edge trailing with the little split belts that you can see hanging on the right there. All right, so this has been stropped, and I was actually in the middle of doing a lawnmower blade on the new angle guide when this client showed up. So since she only had a few minutes, I decided I would put the mower blade down and finish off doing her knife for her. Now, typically I like to do all my cleanup stuff first, but because I only had 20 minutes, I wanted to make sure I had all the sharpening and the knife ready to go. And I figured, hey, if it took her a little longer to come back, then I'll clean up and do the handles and maybe do a little polishing and make this look way better than it did when it came in. But I was willing to sacrifice that to make sure that I had at least it resharpened and cutting and all the chips taken out of it. And she still wasn't back, so I went to doing a light sanding by hand to get that gunk off. And you can see it kind of sticking to the sandpaper there. So sometimes I will do it by hand. Sometimes I'll use the radial disc. This time it wasn't, terribly bad, so I figured I'll just go at it with some light sandpaper. This is like 400 grit sandpaper, so it's pretty high grit, so it'll keep it still nice and smooth. And I just sanded all those ugly, like dark areas off of there. And then I am going to treat it with some hardening oil. So here's a little trick I'll do sometimes if I want to see how the wood's going to look, but I still want to keep it nice and dry. I'll hit it with a little bit of high isopropyl alcohol. This is 99% isopropyl alcohol, and it kind of lets me know what it's going to look like after I put hardening oil on it, and I can see if there's any spots that I missed, and it also helps get off any dirt or oils and stuff that could still be on there. And you can see it's looking pretty good. So I know that, hey, I can go ahead and put whatever type of hardening oil I want to use on here. I'm even going to throw it in my vacuum chamber because, we just have a short period of time here, but anything that I can help that penetrate and get in there. And now I'm going to just lightly touch the outside here and see how that looks. And yeah, we're good. So just getting that all cleaned off of there, get a little closer inspection. So I decided to go with tried and true varnish oil, only because this dries a little bit faster than just straight linseed oil. I do have tried and true linseed oil, but the varnish oil has some things in there that makes it dry in about 5 minutes. Like it, not totally, but you basically you put the product on, you let it soak in as best you can, and then you wipe it off, and then it dries relatively quickly. Get better penetration on it. I'm going to put it on, throw it into the vacuum chamber for at least a few minutes, and then that way when I wipe it off, it'll have gotten in there a lot better than if I just put it on and wiped it off. Okay, so here's the vacuum chamber. I got it turned on and it's starting to come up to pressure. And as it fully starts to pressurize, you will start to see bubbles forming on the handle because it's pulling the air out of the handle, which allows the oil to then penetrate better. And it will amaze you how many bubbles you will see. It starts pulling a whole lot of air bubbles out, which is pretty neat. So this part here is time lapsed, and I got lucky. She didn't come back in exactly 20 minutes. She actually stayed out for a little bit longer. So I let this stay in for about a good 10 or 15 minutes, but I'm not going to make you sit through 10 or 15 minutes of just watching a knife pull air out of the wood handle, but you can get a pretty good idea of what's going on there. And you can see there gets a lot of air out of there. So at this point, it's all done, and it's just now time to take it out and wipe it off. I grabbed one of those blue shop towels, paper towels for shops, and I'm just going to wipe any residual oil off of that wood, and then we were just going to let it air dry, and that's it. And it will dry pretty quick. Now, when it's in the vacuum chamber, one of the neat things about vacuum chambers is it will not dry in the vacuum chamber, even if you forget about it being in there. Because once you suck all the air out, it won't dry. So all these different hardening oils and everything need oxygen to dry. So when you put it in an atmosphere with zero oxygen, it just stays wet the whole time and just continues to get into the wood. But to get it to dry, you do gotta eventually, take it out of there. Now I'm going to treat the knife itself with Japanese knife oil or camellia oil. It's a really fantastic food-safe oil and can be used for all kinds of things, but it is the recommended oil for Japanese knives. Finally, after oiling it, I put all my customers' knives in a knife sleeve, so I'm just cutting the knife sleeve for her Nakiri, and it is ready to go back. Then I just decided I would attach a business card on there. The client was so happy with the knife when she came to get it. She said that she will drive all the way back down with the rest of her knives, and that's kind of what we're always looking for, repeat customers. And as I always do, I'll leave any relevant links to products and things that you've seen in this video in the description of this video, and I will talk to y'all soon. Hope you're having a great weekend, and thanks for taking the time to watch this video. And if you enjoyed it, please like and share it and do all those things that all YouTubers ask you to do. Have a great day, y'all.